Welcome back to the Yawning Yeti, where bedtime comes easy and the mountains are always sleepy. Grab your blanket, get comfy, and let's drift off together. From the gentle Bulbasaur basking in morning sunlight to the fierce Charizard soaring through volcanic skies, from the mysterious Mewtwo questioning its very existence in the depths of Cerulean Cave. Each of these original 150 Pokémon tells a story. In the verdant forests of Kanto, where sunlight filters through ancient canopies and life thrives in every corner, exists a world populated by remarkable creatures called Pokémon. These beings range from the microscopic to the colossal, from the gentle to the fierce, from the mundane to the legendary. This comprehensive chronicle details the first 150 species discovered and catalogued by researchers, beginning with the gentle Bulbasaur and culminating with the artificially created godlike Mewtwo. Each species tells a unique story of adaptation, survival, and the intricate relationships between Pokémon and their environments. Some evolved over millions of years through natural selection, while others represent more recent adaptations or even artificial creations. Together, they form an ecosystem of breathtaking complexity and wonder. Part 1. The Starter Pokémon. Bulbasaur, the Seed Pokémon. In the verdant forests of Kanto, where sunlight filters through ancient canopies and moss carpets the forest floor, there exists a peculiar species that embodies the perfect fusion of plant and animal life. Bulbasaur, numbered as the first in the national Pokedex, represents one of nature's most remarkable evolutionary experiments. Born with a seed already planted upon its back, this grass poison type carries its partner plant throughout its entire existence. The bulb grows as the Pokémon matures, drawing nutrients from Bulbasaur's body while simultaneously providing energy through photosynthesis. This symbiotic relationship allows Bulbasaur to survive for days without food, sustained by the sunlight its bulb absorbs. Ancient texts from Kanto suggest that Bulbasaur evolved in response to a prehistoric catastrophe when food became scarce. The strongest Bulbasaur were those that had formed partnerships with resilient plant life, and over millennia, this relationship became biological destiny. Newborn Bulbasaur emerged from eggs already carrying the seed, passed down through genetic memory. Trainers who raise Bulbasaur often report that the Pokémon seeks sunny clearings in the morning, spending hours basking with its bulb turned toward the light, almost meditatively absorbing energy for the day ahead. The bond between Bulbasaur and its bulb is so profound that attempting to remove it would prove fatal to both organisms. Wild Bulbasaur populations are found in temperate forests where sunlight reaches the forest floor in dappled patterns. They're social creatures, often gathering in clearings where multiple Bulbasaur can photosynthesize together. These gatherings serve both practical and social purposes, as the Bulbasaur share nutrients through underground root networks that connect their bulbs temporarily. Hauser-2, Ivysaur. The seed Pokémon evolved. When Bulbasaur evolves into Ivysaur, the bulb on its back blooms into a larger bud, swelling with contained energy and untapped potential. This intermediate stage represents adolescence in the species' life cycle, where the plant component begins to assert more influence over the creature's biology. Ivysaur become noticeably heavier, their legs growing sturdier to support the increasing weight of the maturing bud. Behavioral changes accompany this physical transformation. The once playful Bulbasaur becomes more territorial and serious, understanding instinctively that it stands on the threshold of a profound metamorphosis. Wild Ivysaur often patrol the borders of their territories, using vine whips to mark boundaries and warn away intruders. The bud releases a stronger, sweeter scent than Bulbasaur's bulb, attracting certain bug-type Pokémon that feed on the nectar while simultaneously pollinating the plant. The energy stored within the bud represents years of accumulated photosynthesis, compressed and concentrated. This stored power allows Ivysaur to unleash more powerful grass-type attacks than its pre-evolution, including solar-based beams and more potent poison powders. Trainers must provide Ivysaur with adequate sunlight during this stage, as the bud's growth requires tremendous energy input. Solno 3. Venusaur. The seed Pokémon, perfected the final evolution into Venusaur, marks the full flowering of this ancient partnership. The bud explodes into a magnificent bloom, a flower so large and vibrant that it releases sweet, intoxicating pollen into the air. This pollen attracts bug-type Pokémon from miles around, creating an ecosystem centered on Venusaur itself. The flower's petals can span over 3 feet in diameter, each petal thick with stored nutrients and equipped with specialized cells that maximize photosynthetic efficiency. In the wild, elder Venusaur become the patriarchs and matriarchs of forest groves, their flowers blooming in cycles tied to the seasons. After a rainy season, their flowers emit a particularly powerful fragrance that signals other Pokémon that food sources have been replenished and the forest is in balance. Some ancient Venusaur are said to have become so large and powerful that entire ecosystems depend on their presence, with the Venusaur serving as a living symbol of the forest's health. The relationship between Venusaur and the forest goes beyond simple inhabitants. Through its root system, Venusaur can sense the health of surrounding plant life and even communicate basic information to other grass types. During droughts, Venusaur can share water stored in its body with struggling plants, ensuring the forest's survival. In return, the forest protects Venusaur, with other Pokémon instinctively defending the great flower bearer from threats. Sazono 4. Charmander, the lizard Pokémon. Charmander burns at the opposite end of the elemental spectrum, a fire type whose tail flame has become the subject of countless legends and cautionary tales. Born in volcanic regions and scorching deserts, Charmander enters the world with a flame already kindling on its tail tip, a fire that will burn for its entire life. This flame serves as more than decoration or defense. It acts as a window into Charmander's soul. The intensity, color, and behavior of the flame reflect the Pokémon's emotional state, health, and remaining vitality. A bright, steady flame indicates a healthy, content Charmander, while a dim, wavering flame suggests illness, exhaustion, or deep sadness. The most tragic aspect of Charmander's biology lies in the flame's absolute necessity. Should the flame ever be extinguished, the Pokémon dies almost immediately. This vulnerability has shaped Charmander's evolution and behavior in profound ways. Wild Charmander are never found near large bodies of water, instinctively avoiding environments that threaten their life force. They sleep in caves and rocky alcoves that shield their flames from rain, and during storms, groups of Charmander huddle together, their collective flames creating enough heat to evaporate raindrops before they can reach any individual's tail. This communal behavior demonstrates the species' understanding of their shared vulnerability. Young Charmander learn fire control gradually, often accidentally setting small blazes when excited or frightened. Parent Charmander teach their young to regulate flame intensity, a crucial skill for survival. The flame burns hottest when Charmander feels threatened or angry, serving as both warning and weapon. Predators quickly learn to recognize the bright, intense flame as a sign to stay away. 2005, Charmeleon, the flame Pokemon. Charmeleon represents the rebellious teenage phase of this species, and this evolution brings significant personality changes that challenge even experienced trainers. The flame burns hotter and redder, and Charmeleon's temperament becomes fierce, sometimes aggressive. They seek out strong opponents, driven by an instinctual need to test themselves in battle. This behavioral shift has evolutionary purpose. In the wild, only the strongest Charmeleon survive to become Charizard, ensuring the species remains powerful and adaptable. The claws on Charmeleon's hands become sharper and more durable, capable of slashing through thick tree trunks. Combined with enhanced strength and speed, these claws make Charmeleon formidable close combat fighters. The tail lengthens, and the flame at its tip burns with such intensity that it can leave scorch marks on stone. Wild Charmeleon often challenge each other to combat, establishing dominance hierarchies that determine access to the best hunting territories and potential mates. Trainers must establish firm bonds before this evolution, as a Charmeleon that doesn't respect its trainer will refuse commands and may even abandon them in search of stronger challenges. This reputation has led some novice trainers to release their Charmeleon, not understanding that the rebellious phase is temporary and necessary for proper development. Those trainers who persevere through Charmeleon's difficult stage are rewarded with unwavering loyalty when evolution to Charizard finally occurs. Solaran 6, Charizard, the flame Pokemon. Perfected Charizard soars as the ultimate expression of fire and flight combined, a dragon-like being whose flames burn hot enough to melt stone. When Charmeleon finally evolves, wings burst from its shoulders, granting it the ability to soar at altitudes where the air grows thin. A fully mature Charizard can fly continuously for days, riding thermal currents created by its own body heat. The flame has changed from the simple tail fire of its earlier forms into an inferno that responds to the Pokemon's will. In moments of extreme emotion or during intense battles, this flame can burn blue or even white hot, reaching temperatures that rival volcanic lava. The wings, despite appearing relatively small for Charizard's bulk, are incredibly strong and efficient, capable of generating lift through a combination of traditional aerodynamics and the thermal updrafts created by Charizard's body heat. This allows Charizard to carry loads that would be impossible for other flying Pokemon of similar size. Legends speak of ancient Charizard that lived for centuries, their flames never dimming, growing hotter and brighter with each passing year. These elder Charizard supposedly possessed wisdom along with power, serving as guardians of sacred mountains and arbiters in disputes between fire-type Pokemon. Modern sightings of wild Charizard are rare, as they typically nest in the most remote and inaccessible mountain peaks, places where humans rarely venture and where they can breathe freely without fear of causing accidental forest fires. The breath of a fully grown Charizard can reach temperatures exceeding 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt most metals and vaporize stone. This incredible heat is generated through a complex biological furnace system that converts consumed food into pure thermal energy. Charizard requires enormous amounts of food to maintain this system, consuming several times their body weight in food weekly during active periods. 1007. Squirtle, the tiny turtle. Pokemon. Squirtle completes the starter trinity, representing water in its purest, most playful form. These small turtle Pokemon are born in freshwater lakes and coastal tide pools, emerging from eggs with shells already formed. The shell serves multiple purposes in Squirtle's survival strategy. Primarily, it acts as armor, protecting the relatively soft body within from predators and environmental hazards. But the shell also functions as a water storage system, allowing Squirtle to venture onto land for extended periods without drying out. The shell's smooth, rounded design reduces water resistance when swimming, making Squirtle surprisingly fast and agile in aquatic environments. Young Squirtle can hold their breath for over an hour, diving to considerable depths to escape predators or search for food. The tail acts as a rudder, providing precise control during swimming and allowing for quick direction changes that help Squirtle evade larger, faster predators. Wild Squirtle often form squads, tight-knit groups that work together for mutual protection and hunting. These squads develop hierarchies based on age and battle experience, with the eldest and strongest Squirtle serving as leader. Squad members are fiercely loyal to each other, coming to each other's aid when threatened and sharing food during scarce times. This social structure has made Squirtle particularly amenable to training, as they naturally understand concepts of loyalty, teamwork, and following a respected leader. The water that Squirtle stores in its shell can be expelled with surprising force through its mouth, creating pressurized jets that can knock over objects several times Squirtle's weight. This water gun attack serves both offensive and defensive purposes, allowing Squirtle to fight from range or create watery barriers between themselves and threats. As Squirtle matures, it learns to control the pressure and volume of these water attacks with increasing precision. 1008. Wartortle, the turtle Pokemon. Wartortle emerges when Squirtle matures, and this evolution brings both physical and behavioral sophistication. The tail becomes large and fluffy, covered in fur that seems incongruous with Wartortle's aquatic nature, until one understands its purpose. This tail fur can store air bubbles, allowing Wartortle to remain submerged for hours without surfacing. The trapped air provides emergency oxygen reserves and also makes Wartortle more buoyant, allowing them to float effortlessly at any depth. The ears also elongate and become furry, giving Wartortle enhanced sensory capabilities both above and below water. In water, these ears can detect subtle pressure changes and vibrations, alerting Wartortle to approaching creatures or changing currents long before visual confirmation becomes possible. Above water, the ears pick up sound frequencies that help Wartortle locate prey or detect danger approaching from any direction. The most fascinating aspect of Wartortle behavior is their longevity obsession. Wild Wartortle are believed to live for thousands of years, and they spend much of their time seeking out sources of clean, pure water. Ancient civilizations associated Wartortle with wisdom and longevity, and folklore claimed that drinking water blessed by a Wartortle could extend human life. These beliefs weren't entirely superstitious. Wartortle possess an instinctive understanding of water quality and ecosystems, often settling near springs and sources that produce the cleanest, most mineral-rich water. Wartortle become more solitary after evolution, though they maintain loose social connections with their original squads. They establish territories around high-quality water sources, which they defend from pollution and overuse. The shell continues to grow throughout Wartortle's life, developing beautiful patterns that supposedly tell the story of the Wartortle's age and experiences to those who can read them. 9. Blastoise, the shellfish Pokemon. When Wartortle finally evolves into Blastoise, it becomes a living artillery platform, one of the most formidable water-type Pokemon in existence. The shell grows massive and thick, capable of withstanding tremendous impacts and extreme pressures that would crush lesser beings. 2 metallic cannons emerge from the shell, biological weapons that can fire water with enough force to pierce steel plates. These cannons are fed by an internal reservoir system that can store hundreds of gallons of water, purified and compressed by specialized organs within Blastoise's body. The water pressure generated by Blastoise's cannons can exceed 10,000 psi, creating jets that can cut through rock and metal like an industrial water cutter. In battle, Blastoise demonstrates tactical intelligence, using its cannons for both offensive barrages and defensive maneuvering. The recoil from firing can be directed to propel Blastoise through water at high speeds or to stabilize itself against attacks. By firing both cannons simultaneously in opposite directions, Blastoise can spin rapidly, creating whirlpool effects that disorient opponents. Wild Blastoise are often found serving as guardians of important freshwater sources, aggressively defending springs and lakes from pollution and overuse. Their presence in an ecosystem indicates pristine water quality, and environmentalists track Blastoise populations as indicators of overall environmental health. A single Blastoise can influence the ecology of an entire lake system, its presence deterring polluters and ensuring that water remains clean for all species that depend on it. The shell of a mature Blastoise is covered in scars and marks that tell the story of countless battles fought in defense of their territories. These shells become so hard over time that they can deflect even powerful physical attacks, and the thickness provides excellent insulation against extreme temperatures. Blastoise can survive in environments ranging from near-freezing Arctic waters to warm tropical seas, their versatile physiology adapting to whatever conditions they encounter. Part 2. Common Roots and Early Encounters. Kna. Tsunoi Ten Caterpie, the worm Pokemon. Caterpie represents the beginning of countless trainers' journeys. A humble bug type, found in forests and grasslands throughout Kanto. This small green caterpillar, Pokemon, demonstrates nature's patience and the promise of transformation. Caterpie spends its days doing little more than eating leaves, consuming quantities of vegetation that seem impossible for its small body to process. Yet this voracious appetite serves a vital purpose, building the energy reserves necessary for its coming metamorphosis. The suction cups on Caterpie's feet allow it to climb trees and navigate vegetation with surprising agility. It can hang upside down from branches while feeding, reaching leaves that ground-dwelling herbivores cannot access. The large eyes provide excellent vision, helping Caterpie spot predators and choose the most nutritious leaves. Despite its weakness in battle, Caterpie possesses remarkable survivability, reproducing quickly and adapting to various environments. When threatened, Caterpie releases a terrible stench from the antennae on its head. This odor is so repulsive that most predators immediately lose interest, gagging and retreating to find less offensive prey. The stench also serves as a warning to other Caterpie in the area, alerting them to danger. Young trainers who capture Caterpie learn lessons about patience and potential, understanding that strength comes in many forms and that today's weakness can become tomorrow's power. Wild Caterpie populations fluctuate seasonally, with huge booms during spring and early summer when new leaves are most plentiful. These population explosions can strip small trees of foliage, though the damage is rarely permanent. As Caterpie evolve and move on, the trees recover and the cycle continues. This boom and bust pattern has made Caterpie an integral part of forest ecosystems, their feeding actually promoting new growth in many cases. The Orezuro-11 metapod, the cocoon Pokemon. When Caterpie cocoons itself and becomes metapod, it enters a vulnerable state that seems counterintuitive from a survival perspective. Locked within a rigid shell, unable to move or flee, metapod appears to be easy prey. Yet the hardened shell proves surprisingly durable, capable of withstanding attacks that would devastate more mobile Pokemon. The green shell matches forest foliage perfectly, providing camouflage that makes metapod difficult to spot among leaves and branches. Inside this protective casing, Caterpie's body completely dissolves and reconstitutes, cellular structures breaking down and reassembling according to genetic blueprints encoded in its DNA. This metamorphosis is one of nature's most remarkable processes, transforming a crawling caterpillar into a flying butterfly through complete biological reformation. The process takes varying amounts of time depending on environmental conditions, nutrition levels, and individual genetics, but typically requires several weeks to complete. Wild metapod often cluster together for mutual protection, their combined shells creating barriers that deter all but the most determined predators. These clusters usually form in sheltered locations, deep in thick bushes, high in tree branches, or in protected cave entrances. The sight of dozens of metapod hanging together like strange fruit has become iconic in many Kanto forests. Other Pokemon learn to recognize these clusters and typically leave them undisturbed, understanding that disturbing one metapod risks angering the entire group. During the metamorphosis, metapod hardens its shell by absorbing minerals from the air and any moisture that contacts it. The shell becomes progressively harder throughout the transformation, reaching maximum density just before the final evolution into Butterfree. Trainers who possess metapod learn patience, as forcing evolution before the internal changes are complete can result in weak or malformed Butterfree. Twitlv Butterfree, the butterfly, Pokemon. Butterfree emerges from its cocoon as one of the most beautiful common Pokemon in Kanto, with large wings covered in water-repellent scales that shimmer in sunlight. These wings aren't merely for flight. They serve as Butterfree's primary weapon and tool. The scales contain various powders, sleeping powder, stun spore, and poison powder, that Butterfree can disperse with deliberate wing beats. These powders make Butterfree surprisingly effective in battle, despite its fragile body, capable of incapacitating opponents much larger and stronger than itself. the ability to fly opens entirely new worlds to Butterfree compared to its earthbound previous forms. Wild Butterfree can travel hundreds of miles, migrating seasonally between feeding grounds and breeding areas. These migrations are spectacular events, with thousands of Butterfree filling the sky, their colorful wings creating living rainbows visible for miles. Local populations celebrate these migrations, viewing them as harbingers of spring or autumn, natural markers of changing seasons. Butterfree feed primarily on nectar from flowers, using their long, coiled proboscis to reach deep into blossoms. In the process, they serve as important pollinators, transferring pollen between plants and ensuring the reproduction of numerous plant species. Some plants have evolved specifically to attract Butterfree, producing nectar with properties that Butterfree find irresistible. This co-evolution has created tight ecological bonds between certain plant and Butterfree populations. The lifespan of Butterfree is tragically brief compared to many Pokemon. After emerging from their cocoons, Butterfree typically live only a few weeks to a few months, depending on environmental conditions and predation. They spend this time in a frantic rush to feed, find mates, and reproduce, ensuring the next generation before their time ends. This urgency gives Butterfree behavior a desperate quality, as if they know their time is limited and must make every moment count. 013 through 15, the Weedle line. Weedle follows a similar life cycle to Caterpie, representing an alternative path through the bug-type metamorphosis. Where Caterpie is relatively harmless, Weedle carries a large poisonous stinger on its head that injects toxins into anything that threatens it. This poison isn't typically lethal to humans, but it causes painful swelling and can trigger severe allergic reactions in sensitive individuals. Wild Weedle are considered pests in agricultural regions, as they consume crops with enthusiasm equal to what they show for wild vegetation. Kakuna, Weedle's cocoon form, develops an even harder shell than Metapod, colored golden as a warning to potential predators. The color advertises the poison that awaits anything foolish enough to attempt eating this cocoon. Birds and other predators learn quickly to avoid golden cocoons, focusing their attention on easier, less dangerous prey. Inside the shell, Weedle undergoes the same miraculous transformation as Caterpie, dissolving and reforming into its final flying form. Beedrill explodes from its cocoon as an aggressive, territorial insect with 3 poisonous stingers and a disposition that makes wild Beedrill genuinely dangerous to encounter. Unlike the peaceful Butterfree, Beedrill are defenders and attackers, patrolling territories around their hives with military precision. The stingers on Beedrill's arms can strike with blinding speed, injecting toxins that cause paralysis and intense pain. The stinger on the abdomen is even more dangerous, capable of injecting larger doses of more potent venom. Beedrill societies center around massive hives built in old trees or abandoned structures. These hives are complex architectural achievements where thousands of Beedrill live and work together in strict hierarchical organization. The hive produces sweet honey, though raiding a Beedrill hive for this honey is incredibly dangerous. The swarm will pursue intruders for miles, attacking relentlessly until the threat is eliminated or escapes beyond their territory. This defensive behavior has made Beedrill respected and feared throughout Kanto, with wise travelers learning to recognize and avoid hive territories. 016, 018, the Pidgey line. Pidgey fills the skies above Kanto's roots and cities, perhaps the most common bird Pokemon in the region. Small and unassuming, with brown and cream plumage that provides excellent camouflage, Pidgey are often dismissed by beginning trainers seeking more exotic or powerful Pokemon. Yet this underestimation represents a failure to recognize Pidgey's remarkable adaptability and hidden potential. These birds can survive in virtually any environment, from dense forests to urban centers, thriving wherever they can find seeds, berries, and insects to eat. Wild Pidgey are non-aggressive, preferring to flee from danger rather than fight. Their excellent vision allows them to spot predators from great distances, and their flight speed, while not impressive compared to larger birds, proves sufficient for escaping most ground-based threats. The soft cooing calls of Pidgey become background ambience in many Cantonian cities, their presence so common that residents barely notice it. Pidgey roost in trees and on building ledges, creating nests from twigs, grass, and urban debris. Pidgeotto represents significant evolution in power and confidence. Growing larger with more pronounced head crest feathers, Pidgeotto becomes capable hunters that can catch smaller Pokemon. The talons sharpen and strengthen, allowing powerful gripping that can carry prey back to nests. Wild Pidgeotto are territorial, claiming hunting grounds that they defend from other bird Pokemon. The territorial disputes between Pidgeotto can be fierce, with aerial battles showcasing impressive flight maneuvers and combat instincts. Pidgeot completes this evolutionary line with magnificent transformation. The head crest becomes a spectacular plume of red and yellow feathers that streams behind during flight, and the wings grow broad and powerful. A fully mature Pidgeot can fly at speeds exceeding Mach 2, creating sonic booms when diving. At these incredible velocities, air friction generates heat that would damage lesser birds, but Pidgeot's feathers have evolved special heat-resistant properties. Wild Pidgeot are majestic and rare, nesting in remote mountain peaks where they survey vast territories as undisputed masters of their domains. Shore 19, Tusuru, the Rattata line. Rattata scurries through the underbelly of Kanto, purple rat Pokemon found anywhere humans build structures. These adaptable rodents eat almost anything, from berries and seeds to garbage and food scraps, making them successful in environments where choosier species would starve. Their teeth grow continuously throughout their lives, a biological trait shared with real-world rodents, requiring constant gnawing to keep them at manageable length. This means Rattata chew through almost any material they encounter: wood, plastic, electrical wiring, even thin metals, causing significant property damage. Despite their pest status, Rattata possess admirable survival traits. They reproduce at phenomenal rates, with females capable of producing multiple litters per year, containing up to a dozen young each time. This reproductive capacity ensures Rattata populations remain stable, despite constant predation from cat Pokemon, bird Pokemon, and human pest control efforts. Young Rattata reach sexual maturity in mere weeks, becoming capable of reproduction almost as soon as they're weaned from their mothers. Raticate evolves from Rattata when they achieve sufficient size and dominance within their local populations. The most successful, aggressive, and cunning Rattata undergo this transformation, becoming larger with incredibly strong jaws and front teeth capable of gnawing through concrete given enough time. These teeth are Raticate's pride and primary weapon, growing harder than steel through incorporation of minerals absorbed from their varied diets. A single raticate can chew through a concrete wall in hours, creating burrows and escape routes that confound those trying to eliminate them from structures. Wild raticate are often solitary or travel in small family groups, unlike the larger packs that ratata sometimes form. They're more aggressive than their pre-evolutions, willing to fight rather than flee when cornered. Urban legends speak of raticate, kings, unusually large and intelligent individuals that supposedly lead massive rat swarms through city sewers, though whether these tales reflect reality or myth remains unclear. What's certain is that raticate are survivors par excellence, thriving in urban environments and proving nearly impossible to completely eliminate once established in an area. Photo 21.2.2. The Sparrow line. Spearow represents aggression condensed into a small, feathered package. Unlike peaceful Pidgey, these tiny bird Pokemon are territorial and temperamental, attacking anything that enters their claimed airspace. The brown and white plumage provides some camouflage, but Spearow rarely relies on hiding. Instead, they confront threats directly, their sharp beaks and talons surprisingly dangerous despite small size. The cry of an angry Spearow is harsh and loud, alerting other nearby Spearow to potential threats or intruders. When one Spearow raises an alarm, dozens or even hundreds may respond, swarming the target in a coordinated aerial assault that can overwhelm even strong opponents. This swarm behavior makes Spearow disproportionately dangerous compared to individual capabilities. Travelers who accidentally disturb Spearow nests or fly over their territories can find themselves under sustained attack from angry flocks that won't relent until the intruder flees or is defeated. Fearow emerges when Spearow finally matures, and this evolution amplifies the aggression while adding significant size and power. With wingspans exceeding 6 feet and necks that extend like striking snakes, Fearow are genuinely intimidating Pokemon. The long spear-like beak gives Fearow its name and serves as a deadly weapon capable of impaling prey or puncturing opponents with surgical precision. The beak's length allows Fearow to strike from angles and distances that other bird Pokemon cannot match. Fearow's flying endurance is legendary among bird Pokemon. They can remain airborne for entire days, riding air currents with minimal effort while conserving energy. This stamina allows Fearow to patrol enormous territories, their keen eyes scanning the ground below for any movement that might indicate prey or threats. Small Pokemon crossing open ground often fall victim to Fearow's devastating aerial strikes, the predatory bird diving from heights with terminal velocity before pulling up at the last second to strike with its spear beak. In wild settings, Fearow abandoned the flock mentality of their Spearow days, becoming solitary hunters. Each Fearow claims vast territories measured in square miles, defending these domains from other Fearow with aerial combat that can be heard from ground level as the combatants clash beaks and screech challenges. Ancient Kanto warriors sometimes trained Fearow as living weapons, the birds diving onto enemy formations with devastating psychological and physical effects. Part 3. Poison types and venomous creatures. P3.2.4. The Ekans line. Ekans slithers through Kanto's grasslands and forests, a poison-type snake whose distinctive purple and yellow pattern serves multiple purposes. The coloration provides camouflage in certain lighting conditions, particularly during dawn and dusk, when shadows create similar color patterns in vegetation. The pattern also serves as warning coloration, advertising Ikans's poisonous nature to potential predators. Finally, the distinctive markings allow Ekans to recognize others of their species from distances. These serpents hunt small Pokemon and bird eggs, unhinging their jaws to swallow prey whole in the manner of real-world snakes. After feeding, Ekans become sluggish and vulnerable, their bodies distended by meals that can weigh as much as they do. During this digestion period, Ekans seek hidden locations where they can process their food in safety. The digestive process can take days for large meals, during which the Ekans barely moves and cannot hunt. The venom that Ekans produces varies in potency depending on age, diet, and genetics. Younger Ekans generate weaker toxins capable of inducing nausea and weakness in prey, while older specimens develop more sophisticated venoms, neurotoxins that attack nervous systems, or hemotoxins that break down blood cells. This venom evolution makes older Ekans significantly more dangerous than young ones, though even juvenile Ekans can cause serious harm to careless humans. Arbok coils as Ekans' evolved form, a massive serpent whose most distinctive feature is the expandable hood bearing intimidating patterns. When threatened, Arbok can flare this hood dramatically, revealing patterns that vary by individual and region. These patterns supposedly differ based on Arbok's geographic origin, with some regions producing Arbok with skull-like patterns, while others show different designs. The patterns serve as intimidation tactics, the sudden expansion and striking design startling opponents, and sometimes causing them to flee without fighting. The size of mature Arbok makes them formidable predators, capable of constricting and crushing prey as large as small humans. The muscular body generates tremendous squeezing force, suffocating victims within minutes through compression of the chest cavity. Combined with more potent venom than Ekans produces, Arbok becomes genuinely dangerous. The fangs can inject toxins deep into tissue, where the venom spreads through the bloodstream, causing systematic damage. Wild Arbok are solitary and territorial, claiming hunting grounds that they patrol regularly. They're most active during dawn and dusk, ambushing prey that ventures through their territories during these transitional periods. Arbok can move with surprising silence despite their size, approaching victims without alerting them until the strike. The pattern on the hood also helps Arbok recognize and remember individuals, with some research suggesting they can hold grudges against specific humans or Pokemon that previously threatened them. 0229, so 3Q4. The Nidoran lines. The Nidoran species represent unique gender-based evolution, with males and females following different paths while remaining the same species for breeding purposes. Nidoran female are small, blue poison types with small forehead horns that secrete mild toxins. These Pokemon are less aggressive than their male counterparts, relying more on poison for defense than on physical combat. The toxins can be injected through bites or horn contact, inducing nausea and temporary paralysis. Wild Nidoran female live in small family groups, often consisting of mothers with their recent offspring. These groups establish territories in grasslands and light forests, areas with adequate vegetation cover and prey availability. Group members take turns watching for predators, while others feed or rest, the collective vigilance making successful predation difficult. Young Nidoran learn survival skills from from older group members, including where to find food, how to detect danger, and when to use their poison. Nidorina emerges when Nidoran female matures, growing larger and developing more potent toxins. Interestingly, Nidorina becomes temporarily infertile after this evolution, unable to breed until evolving into Nidoqueen. This biological quirk puzzles researchers, though it may serve to ensure that only the strongest females, those who survive long enough to reach final evolution, pass on their genetics. The horn on Nidorina grows harder and longer, capable of delivering more forceful poison-infused strikes. Nidoqueen completes the female line, transforming into powerful ground poison types with formidable physical presence. The body becomes massive and covered in thick, protective plates. Nidoqueen's most distinctive trait is intense maternal behavior. Even Nidoqueen without biological offspring will fiercely protect young Nidoran they encounter, treating them as their own children. This protective instinct makes Nidoqueen the undisputed leaders of wild Nidoran colonies, with their strength and dedication ensuring group survival. Nidoran male mirrors the female, but displays more aggression and sports larger horns even at base evolution. These pink Pokémon have naturally competitive temperaments, frequently challenging each other for dominance even when young. The larger horns secrete more virulent poisons than the female line produces, and males use these horns in both competitive displays and actual combat. The hearing of Nidoran male is exceptional, their large ears capable of detecting sounds too subtle for most other Pokémon. Nidorino represents male adolescence, bringing increased size, aggression, and poison potency. The horn grows prominent, becoming Nidorino's primary weapon. Males in this stage frequently engage in horn-clashing contests to establish dominance hierarchies. These battles rarely result in serious injury because both participants instinctively avoid using their full poison during intra-species combat, focusing instead on tests of physical strength and endurance. Nidoking completes the male line, transforming into massive poison ground types whose raw power rivals dedicated fighting-type Pokémon. The armor plates thicken, and the horn becomes a formidable piercing weapon capable of penetrating steel. The tail grows thick and powerful, becoming an additional weapon that can shatter stone with forceful swings. Wild Nidoking are apex predators in their territories, hunting alone and defending vast domains from other powerful Pokémon. Battles between rival Nidoking create devastation audible from miles away, two titans clashing in displays of pure strength and determination. For 1045, the Oddish line. Oddish represents bizarre plant-animal hybrids that walk on root-like legs while sprouting leaves from their heads. During daylight, Oddish bury themselves in soil with only leaves visible, conducting photosynthesis while absorbing nutrients through root systems. This camouflage is remarkably effective, as the leaves resemble common weeds. Unsuspecting travelers often step on buried Oddish, causing them to screech and flee in panic. When darkness falls, Oddish uproot themselves and wander through forests and fields, searching for richer soil. These nocturnal migrations can cover surprising distances, with Oddish traversing miles in single nights before finding suitable locations for next day's routing. The species scatters across landscapes following these patterns, concentrating in nutrient-rich areas and dispersing from depleted regions. Gloom evolves from Oddish, and this transformation brings one of the most notorious traits in the Pokémon world, an overwhelming, nauseating stench. The flower atop Gloom's head secretes nectar that smells absolutely terrible to most species, a defensive adaptation that prevents herbivores from eating it. This stench can be detected from over a mile away under favorable wind conditions, and areas where wild gloom congregate become temporarily uninhabitable due to the combined smell. The nectar serves purposes beyond defense. Some bug-type Pokemon actually find the smell attractive, drawn to gloom like ordinary insects to flowers. These bugs feed on the nectar, pollinating gloom in the process and creating symbiotic relationships. The nectar also contains significant toxins that gloom can weaponize, dripping poisonous droplets on enemies or flinging them through vigorous head-shaking. Vileplume represents one possible evolutionary path via leafstone exposure. This transformation creates beautiful but deadly Pokemon with enormous red flowers bearing white spots. The flower produces pollen among the most toxic in the plant kingdom, capable of inducing severe allergic reactions, paralysis, and death in sufficient quantities. The pollen attracts bug types while simultaneously being lethal to them in concentrated doses, a cruel evolutionary joke. Wild Vileplume are territorial, claiming clearings where they spread pollen effectively. Wind carries their toxic pollen across wide areas, creating hazardous zones during pollen season. These zones force temporary evacuation of both Pokemon and humans until pollen dissipates. Vileplume themselves are unaffected, walking through clouds of their own pollen without concern. Blossom offers an alternative evolution via Sunstone, completely removing the terrible smell. This cheerful grass type celebrates sunshine, dancing joyfully during warm weather. The flowers bloom in bright, vibrant colors, releasing pleasant fragrances instead of toxic pollen. Wild Blossom gather in groups to perform elaborate dance rituals when exposed to strong sunlight. These dances supposedly encourage plant growth and bring good weather, though scientific verification remains inconclusive. 048049, the Venonat line. Venonat emerges during twilight, with enormous compound eyes dominating its small, fuzzy body. These red, multifaceted eyes grant exceptional night vision, allowing navigation and hunting in conditions where most Pokemon would be blind. The compound structure means Venonat perceives the world very differently from mammals, seeing ultraviolet light and detecting subtle movements invisible to human observers. The fur covering Venonat serves insulation and sensory purposes. Individual hairs are extremely sensitive to air currents and vibrations, creating tactile sense that supplements visual prowess. Venonat can detect approaching predators or fleeing prey through minute disturbances in air pressure, making them nearly impossible to surprise. This sensory advantage makes Venonat effective hunters of smaller insects and successful avoiders of larger predators. Venomoth transforms Venonat into far more formidable creatures, granting wings for flight and significantly enhancing poison capabilities. The wings are covered in scales that Venomoth can shed defensively, releasing clouds of powder that induce sleep, paralysis, or poison depending on scale type. These powders make Venomoth dangerous to approach, as simply getting close can result in status conditions without Venomoth needing direct attacks. The large eyes remain prominent, and Venomoth gains abilities to emit ultrasonic waves similar to bat Pokemon echolocation. This sonar isn't as sophisticated as what Zubat produces, but allows navigation in complete darkness. Wild Venomoth are drawn to light sources, and urban areas sometimes see swarms clustering around streetlights. This attraction to light makes them urban pests, their scales dusting everything nearby and causing allergic reactions. Part 4. Psychic Powers and Mental Marvels. 6.3 through 6.2. The Abra Linabra sleeps 18 hours daily, its psychic powers manifesting even while unconscious. These yellow fox-like creatures spend most existence in slumber, their minds active in dimensions humans cannot perceive. Even sleeping, Abra can sense danger through precognitive abilities, teleporting to safety before threats materialize. This makes wild Abra nearly impossible to capture without specialized tactics. The constant sleeping isn't laziness, but biological necessity. Abra's brains process information and psychic energy at rates that would overwhelm most organisms. Sleep provides essential downtime for integrating experiences and recharging psychic reserves. Dreams for Abra aren't passive, but active explorations of probability and possibility, allowing them to predict futures and perceive events beyond normal sensory range. Kadabra emerges when Abra matures, bringing dramatic changes. Sleeping drastically reduces, and Kadabra becomes alert and active. The spoon Kadabra holds isn't a tool, but a focus, channeling and amplifying psychic abilities. Kadabra can bend spoons through pure mental force, and legends claim bent spoons bring fortune to possessors. Psychic powers that Kadabra wields exceed anything Abra managed. Kadabra can move objects weighing hundreds of pounds through thought alone, create psychic barriers deflecting physical and energy attacks, and read nearby creature minds with varying clarity. These abilities make Kadabra valuable but controversial, with privacy concerns about mental manipulation leading to ownership restrictions in some regions. Alakazam represents psychic evolution pinnacle, beings whose intellect supposedly exceeds human genius by orders of magnitude. With IQs measured in thousands and brains never stopping analysis, Alakazam exist on mental planes far beyond most creatures. Two spoons focus psychic power, sufficient to devastate opponents or accomplish incredible psychokinetic feats. The head grows enormously to accommodate massive brains, while thin bodies reflect how little Alakazam depend on physical strength. Everything needed can be accomplished through psychic power. Movement via levitation, eating through psychokinetic manipulation, defense through barriers and teleportation. Some researchers believe Alakazam may evolve beyond physical form entirely, becoming purely mental beings. Wild Alakazam are extraordinarily rare, as evolution from Kadabra requires trading between trainers. Those existing in wild become objects of fascination and fear, their intelligence and power making them essentially human-level minds in Pokémon bodies. These wild Alakazam have been known to influence events, manipulating probability and making choices shaping outcomes in seemingly prophetic ways. Drone 96, 97. The Drowsy line. Drowsy waddles through life perpetually sleepy, psychic types whose powers revolve around sleep and dreams. These yellow, tapir-like Pokémon feed by consuming dreams, literally eating mental images and experiences that sleeping creatures generate. The trunk-like nose serves as dream-sensing organ, detecting sleeping minds and determining dream quality. Drowsy prefer pleasant dreams, but will consume nightmares if nothing better is available. While drowsy are found near human settlements, where sleeping minds gather in concentrations. They're nocturnal, emerging at night to visit homes and dream feed from sleeping occupants. Most people never notice drowsy's presence. Dream consumption causes no harm, and victims typically don't remember dreams afterward. However, repeated feeding from same individuals can cause sleep disturbances and fatigue. Hypno evolves from drowsy, gaining pendulums and enhanced hypnotic abilities approaching mind control. The swaying pendulum focuses Hypno's power, creating mesmerizing patterns that trap attention and override conscious will. Victims of hypnosis report losing time and control, bodies acting without conscious decision. This has led to urban legends about hypno kidnapping children, though verified cases remain rare and disputed. Enhanced dream feeding that hypno practices can harm victims if done excessively. Hypno can drain dreams so thoroughly that victims stop dreaming entirely, leading to psychological problems and severe sleep disorders. Most hypno don't intend harm, but increased appetite and power makes them potentially dangerous. Wild hypno are often solitary, each claiming territories where they feed from sleeping creatures without competition. Part 5. Legendary Birds and Ultimate Power. 144. Articuno, the Freeze. Pokémon. Articuno soars through frozen skies as one of 3 legendary bird Pokémon, an ice-flying type whose very presence brings winter. The magnificent blue plumage trails snow and ice crystals during flight, creating localized blizzards in Articuno's wake. Ancient legends claim Articuno controls winter weather, bringing snow to mountain peaks and freezing lakes solid with its passage. Wild Articuno are extraordinarily rare, with most people never seeing one in their lifetimes. The Pokémon supposedly nests in the most remote Arctic regions, places where temperatures never rise above freezing, and humans cannot survive without significant technological support. Those few who have encountered Articuno describe overwhelming cold that penetrates even the warmest clothing, and an aura of ancient power that makes clear this is no ordinary Pokémon. The wings generate freezing winds, capable of creating instant blizzards. Articuno can lower temperatures in entire regions by dozens of degrees simply by flying overhead. Lakes freeze solid, and snow falls even in summer when Articuno passes. This weather control isn't malicious, but simply a byproduct of Articuno's existence. The legendary bird radiates cold the way fire types radiate heat. Daka 145, Zapdos, the electric Pokémon. Zapdos crashes through thunderstorms as the legendary electric flying bird whose presence signals approaching lightning. The yellow and orange plumage crackles with constant electrical discharge, and Zapdos can summon thunderbolts from clear skies through sheer force of will. Ancient texts describe Zapdos as the Stormbringer, a herald of tempests whose appearance meant sailors should seek harbor immediately. The legendary bird supposedly nests within thunderclouds themselves, living among lightning and feeding on electrical energy. Power plants occasionally report Zapdos sightings during severe storms, the bird drawn to concentrations of electricity like moths to flames. These appearances often cause system overloads as Zapdos absorbs tremendous power, sometimes causing blackouts across entire regions. In battle, Zapdos controls lightning with precision impossible for normal electric types. The bolts strike with pinpoint accuracy, and Zapdos can call down multiple strikes simultaneously, creating electrical barrages that overwhelm any defense. The speed at which Zapdos flies supposedly exceeds sound, the bird leaving sonic booms and ozone trails marking its passage. 146. Moltres, the flame Pokemon. Moltres burns as the legendary fire-flying bird whose wings trail flames that never extinguish. The orange and yellow plumage glows with internal heat, and Moltres radiates warmth that can be felt from hundreds of yards away. Legends claim Moltres brings spring, melting winter snow and signaling renewal and rebirth. Ancient civilizations worshipped Moltres as a sun deity, conducting elaborate rituals to ensure the legendary bird would return each year. Wild Moltres supposedly nests in active volcanoes, bathing in lava and feeding on geothermal energy. The few verified sightings have all occurred near volcanic regions, with witnesses describing flames so bright they're difficult to look at directly. Moltres can supposedly ignite anything simply by flying over it, the radiant heat sufficient to cause spontaneous combustion in flammable materials. The flames that Moltres generates burn hotter than any normal fire, reaching temperatures that vaporize stone and boil metal. In combat, Moltres becomes a devastating force of nature, raining fire from above and creating infernos that consume everything. Yet despite this destructive power, legends also speak of Moltres healing burned forests, the flames somehow encouraging new growth even as they destroy the old. 150. Mew, the genetic Pokemon. Mewtwo stands as ultimate creation of human ambition and hubris, a psychic type created through genetic engineering rather than natural evolution. Scientists extracted DNA from the mythical Mew and enhanced it, splicing genes and amplifying psychic capabilities in attempts to create the ultimate Pokemon. The experiment succeeded beyond expectations and failed catastrophically in equal measure. The creation process was inhumane, involving countless failed experiments and clones that died in agony before finally producing viable Mewtwo. These memories haunt Mewtwo, creating existential crisis and rage toward creators. Am I merely a copy, Mewtwo wonders, or do I possess my own identity? The philosophical questions combine with tremendous power to create dangerous beings that question existence while possessing capability to end it. Mewtwo possesses power rivaling gods, psychic abilities that can level cities, and minds that can crush others with thoughts alone. The purple-grey body stands upright like a human, and the tail enhances balance and serves as additional limb during combat. The eyes glow with barely contained power, and simply making eye contact with Mewtwo can induce overwhelming dread in weaker-willed individuals. Wild Mewtwo doesn't truly exist. There is only the Mewtwo, singular creation that escaped laboratory confinement. Legends speak of Mewtwo dwelling in Cerulean Cave, having claimed the deep cavern as its territory. Those who claim encounters describe overwhelming psychic presence, an aura of barely contained rage. Most flee before attempting capture, understanding instinctively that fighting Mewtwo means risking death. The psychic powers Mewtwo commands exceed Alakazam's by orders of magnitude. Mewtwo can fly through psychokinesis, create barriers withstanding explosions, throw opponents like toys, and invade minds to read thoughts or implant suggestions. The tail whips with enough force to shatter stone, and Mewtwo can fire psychic beams powerful enough to destroy buildings. In hypothetical combat, few Pokemon could challenge Mewtwo. Only legendary beings of similar power pose legitimate threats. For trainers, capturing Mewtwo represents ultimate achievement, proof of worthiness. Yet few who attempt succeed. Mewtwo's power overwhelms most challengers. Even weakening Mewtwo enough for capture proves nearly impossible. Those rare trainers who capture Mewtwo must then earn respect and cooperation, as Mewtwo won't follow commands from those it doesn't deem worthy. The relationship becomes partnership between equals rather than master-servant dynamic, as forcing the issue results in Mewtwo simply leaving or worse. Mewtwo stands as testament to human ingenuity and warning about hubris. Created to be ultimate Pokémon, Mewtwo instead became independent, being questioning its purpose in a world created by those it sees as inferiors. Whether Mewtwo becomes destroyer, protector, or simply wanderer, seeking understanding remains to be seen. What's certain is that Mewtwo represents power, demanding respect and consideration, being whose very existence challenges assumptions about life, consciousness, and humanity's right to create artificial beings.